Welcome to the Rotary Club of Beaumont, where together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Please mute your microphone if you haven't already done so, and we suggest you change to speaker view through the icon up in the top right corner on your Zoom screen, so that gives you a big view of the speaker when the speaker comes on. Today, our invocation will be led by Mandy Clayton, Director of Development and Foundation, Lamar Institute of Technology, and our pledges by Dee Lane, Executive Sales, R&P Employer Solutions Incorporated. Mandy.
Thank you, Cindy. Please join me in prayer. Thank you, Father, for the gift of Rotary in each other. Please bless us with the gift of a servant's heart. May we ever be mindful of those in need. Help us to provide to the hungry. Help us to heal the wounds of hatred with our love. Comfort those in sorrows. Bring peace to those living in areas of unrest. Through our service, we thank you for all of our gifts. We ask for special blessings for those who aren't here with us today, and for those who are battling illness of any kind. We ask for prayers also for our speaker, that you give them the gift of words. Amen.
All right, are y'all ready to join me in the pledges? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mandy and Dee. Now for some club business, a recap of the Layette project. I want to thank Chair Dina Hughes and all of the people who volunteered to assemble the Layette bags last week. We had a Rotaractor with us and some family members, and we got it done pretty quickly. So that'll be going out over the course of the next few months to the women in Nicaragua. Our flag project, Pat has talked about it this morning. It was very successful. Thank you to Pat and Gary. They bragged relentlessly how the slots were filled a week ahead of time, and we had so many people show out and make that a success. So thank you all who showed up to do that this past Monday. And also, thank you to those who worked the vaccine distribution on Monday. They changed the hours a little bit on us and squunched it up from 12 to 2:30. And we had Rotarians that worked the traffic and the parking lot, and tough job, hot sun. And thank you for just representing our club in that way and helping those people get their shots. If anybody says that the Rotary Club of Beaumont hasn't met or done anything through this pandemic, just watch our videos online or see all the pictures that we post of all the projects that we've been able to take part in. We've really been able to help our community in a whole lot of ways. So thank you for keeping this going during these tough times. And if you missed any of those projects, we have another opportunity coming up to tell you about. John Lee, Community Service Chair, take it away.
On April the 10th, we are going to be doing a project in conjunction with Lamar University for the part of their big event. So our Rotaract group at Lamar and possibly some other students will be assisting us at the Rotary Playground in downtown, where we're going to be replacing some dirt, spreading a whole bunch of mulch, and cleaning all the playground equipment. The city is going to provide the dirt and the mulch. They did say it's okay for us to have a pit down there, by the way, Cindy, if we can get one. And but we will be able to clean up the playground and get it looking as close to new as we can. So it's from 8:30 to 1 o'clock I know I had Jackie put 8 o'clock because I wanted Rotarians. If I tell them 8 o'clock, you might show up by 8:30. So, but from 8:30 to 1 o'clock, the students should be there at 9, and we'll get it set up and should have, hopefully, get a good crew out there, and let's clean this playground up for the kids. Thanks.
Thank you, John. And let me mention another opportunity you would have right now if you want to help with a committee that's meeting and has some important work to do. The scholarship committee with John Bullard could use a couple more people on it. So if you can either contact him directly, he has got the applications in for this year. We will announce our 2 new scholarship recipients on the 14th. So either contact John Bullard directly or get a hold of Jackie and she can forward your information on over to him. And then one more super important piece of business. Next week's meeting on April 7th is going to be our first hybrid meeting for the club. So Jackie talked a little bit about this before we officially started the meeting, but we need to know if you're going to be there in person, and we also need to know if you're going to eat, because we need to turn in a list of people, a number to the Elegante so they can prepare the correct amount of food and set up the correct amount of tables for us to meet there. So we're just asking for your help on that. Either go online, there is a place where you can, off the Rotary Gram, you can sign up for that, or call Jackie or email her. But please get that information into us as soon as you can so we can give a number to the Elegante and they can start practicing. You will still be able to tune in via Zoom if you're not comfortable coming in person. So we expect some kinks. That's just the way it is. But we have a great tech crew that's been coming up and practicing. And so, you know, grace. Let's practice some grace during this transition time. But I'm looking forward to seeing everybody that is comfortable back in person next Wednesday at the Elegante. Now, to introduce our speaker via video is Lynn Castle, Executive Director, Art Museum of Southeast Texas.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Caitlin Clay, who is the Curator of Exhibitions at the Art Museum of Southeast Texas. Caitlin was promoted to the curatorial position in October of 2020. As Curator of Exhibitions, she organizes all exhibitions at the museum, including 4 to 8 shows in the main galleries each year. She also oversees projects in the curatorial and collections departments, including a $50,000 IMLS grant to photograph and digitize the John Gaston Ferry collection of Mexican folk art. Before her promotion to her current position, Caitlin worked as the AMSET registrar and collections manager. As registrar, she oversaw the safety and movement and the storage of AMSET's permanent collection, as well as loans and special exhibitions. A Beaumont native, she received her Bachelor of Arts in Art History with a business concentration in 2016 from the University of Dallas. Her bachelor's thesis focused on Roy Lichtenstein's use of appropriations throughout his career, with its emphasis on his interest in Cubism. In 2018, she graduated from Texas Christian University with a master's in art and history degree with a specialization in modern and contemporary art. Her master's degree thesis explored glass blowing as an art practice and examined our contemporary definition of sculpture through a comprehensive study of Dale Chihuly's artworks. Caitlin has presented papers at Ohio University, the University of Texas at Tyler, the University of Dallas, Southern Methodist University, Texas Christian University. She has also interned at the Nasher Sculpture Center, the Amon Carter Museum of American Art, and the National Heisey Glass Museum, and the works of Ohio Center for History, Art, and Technology. Please join me in welcoming Curator Caitlin Clay. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest.
Caitlin, welcome to the Rotary Club of Beaumont.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me as your speaker today.
We're excited to hear what you've got going for us.
Absolutely. So as Lynn mentioned, I'm going to walk you through our current exhibitions in the main gallery. This spring, we're exhibiting Delita Martin, and her exhibition is titled Conjure. So let me just switch the camera. Sorry, 1 second. Here we go. Okay. So this will be a virtual walk through the exhibition. If you were entering the museum, and can you all hear me clearly? Okay, wonderful. If you were to enter the museum, you would see our title wall announcing the exhibition. And then you would see the gallery space. So Delita Martin is a Houston-based artist. She is the first African-American woman to have a solo exhibition at AMSET. So we are so proud of this milestone, especially because she is such a talented artist. Delita received her BFA from Texas Southern University, and her degree was in drawing. She also received her MFA, her Master of Fine Arts, from Purdue University, and it was in printmaking. So the work you're looking at here is the first piece, titled A Gathering of Birds. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. So Delita creates what's called monoprints. She considers herself a printmaker, but she only makes one unique print. So traditionally in printmaking, you would make several editions that were nearly identical or similar to each other, but that is not what Delita is doing. She is creating singular artworks. And so those are called monoprints, one single print. And the way she creates her prints is that she'll start by using screen printing to create the background. She'll also draw her portrait sitter. So you can see here just how lovely and talented she is, and her use of charcoal and graphite. She will then layer different cutouts that she's made. You can see in this piece the birds. Those are a wood block cut that have been pasted to the print. She also hand stitches and collages on each of her prints using decorative paper. And she'll also sometimes use a gold leaf or a silver leaf in her prints. And in this piece in particular, we don't see the gold leaf or silver leaf. Okay. There are 21 monoprints in this exhibition. This is an entirely new body of work for Delita. So I like to tell guests when I see them in the gallery space that while we were all home working from our laptops, sitting on the couch during the pandemic, Delita was in her studio every day from 5:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night, creating this brand new body of work. And this is the first time these works have been exhibited. So seeing them here in this exhibition is the first time for visitors or viewers nationwide to have a chance to see these artworks. So the piece you're looking at now is titled Nightbird. It is next to another piece titled Redbird. And these are both self-portraits of Delita. In this one, you can see she's used the gold leaf on the earring. She's utilized graphite and charcoal for the portrait. You can see the decorative paper again with the hand stitching. Get a nice close-up of that. And what might be difficult to see from the video is that some of these pieces are very large. So these two are the smallest works in the exhibition. And they're probably about 3 foot by 4 foot. But the rest of the artworks are about 6 feet tall. So this one's titled Blue Spirit, or Blue Star, I'm sorry. And what's so incredible about Delita's pieces is not only her craftsmanship, but also just the colors. And it's a little bit hard to see here because of the reflection, but just her attention to detail and her use of different types of art making processes. You can see the beautiful work on these hands. More decorative paper with hand stitching. So in Delita's practice, she focuses on depicting African American women and children who you'll see here throughout the exhibition. And she uses signs and symbols and colors that reflect her African heritage, but also her life growing up here in America. So Delita spent a good portion of her life in Arkansas. She was raised as a Southern Baptist and spent a lot of time growing up with her mom and her grandmother. And so the women in her life really shaped her as an artist. And each of these women who are models in the exhibition, she's created or she's formed a relationship with. So it's really important in Delita's art making that she gets to know the people she's interacting with and depicting in her artworks. And this one's really lovely with the different types of decorative paper. You can see those there. Another really great element of this artwork in particular is how Delita has started to go beyond the borders of the paper. And you can see she's used the fabric and it's extended off of the edge, sort of into the confines of the frame. This is a portrait of Delita's mother. She has a wonderful stern expression. I was told she was not pleased to have her portrait taken, as I'm sure most mothers are when asked to participate in such a thing. You can see the gold leaf here again in the earrings. So Delita's artwork is full of symbolism. She really loves to use the circle as a symbol for the moon, and also a symbol of woman. The color blue is used really often, and I know I'm showing you a red one at the moment, but Delita is really interested in how women exist in a duality. So they exist both in the physical world, but also in a spiritual realm. And that's really reflected in this piece, which is our largest piece in the exhibition. It's 6 foot by 8 foot. I'll see if I can back up enough so you can see it. This work is titled Trinity, and above it is a quote from Dr. Kelly Willits. It says, "Some spirits won't come unless you call them." So in this piece, we really get a sense of that duality that I was talking about just a minute ago, with the color blue symbolizing the spiritual realm, these abstracted forms, which for Delita represent the sort of in-between nature of the two realms. We get the circles and the earrings symbolizing the moon. We also have this incredible sort of gazing ball with birds in it. And for Delita, birds represent the human spirit. And depending on what the birds are doing, represents the state of the human spirit. So if the bird is flying, then the spirit is free. If this bird is caged, represents conflict within the spirit. In this face, you can see sort of a reference to African masks. Delita is very interested in private or hidden women's societies in Africa. And so the Mende mask, which is worn by women in traditional rituals in Africa, is often also represented in her work. So these are the back two galleries. We'll start with this piece on my left. This piece is titled Resting Place. And I love in this piece the attention to her hair. This piece also has some beautiful decorative paper towards the bottom. This piece is titled Spirit and Self. And it's one of the pieces where you see that duality combined with the references to African heritage and ritual practice, really well thought out and presented. So Delita currently works as a professional artist. She used to be faculty at the University of Arkansas in Little Rock, but a few years ago decided to leave the faculty and return to Texas so that she could pursue her art making full time. While she was also making these works for the exhibition last year, she also put together her own grant foundation, which is assisting minority artists through providing funds to help with getting art supplies and any other needs they might need, such as childcare support. This piece is titled Sitting in Silence. And like I said, these works are about 6 feet tall. So they have a major impact on the viewer when you walk into the gallery space. They're very monumental. This piece is Mirror, Mirror. It's one of my favorites. And you can see she's actually used reflective paper in the mirrors. And mirrors are another symbol for Delita. They are an object that allows you to access the spiritual or abstracted realm. And so throughout this exhibition, you'll see mirrors used as fashion elements or as objects held by the portrait sitters. This piece is titled Her Place. I love the pants on this one, along with the floor design. We'll get a good close-up of that. So along with this exhibition, Delita has self-published a catalog of all the works, and it is available here at the museum. And as part of our programming, we had a virtual panel discussion with her and 3 other contemporary female Black artists about 2 weeks ago. And we recorded it. It is accessible on our YouTube page. If you're interested in watching it, it's about an hour and a half. But Delita and the 3 other artists, Levia Olivia, Ann Johnson, and Rabea Bayin, work as a collective together. And their collective is called Rue. It's actually named after the food staple you make for gumbo and etouffee. And they each exhibit individually, but also exhibit it collectively. And so in our panel discussion, we talked about their experiences as female Black artists. There are different art making processes. They all enjoy printmaking, but they are interdisciplinary artists. So they work in different mediums with different materials. And also how recent social changes and historical narratives have affected their art making, and how they think society can improve on telling the stories of Black men and women. I'm going to zoom in one more time on this piece just so you can see how lovely the skirt is. This is made up of decorative paper and also these ravens or crows that have each been individually printed, cut out, and then glued over each other. And you can see this piece, the skirt comes all the way off the edges of the paper. Okay, move on to this one. This piece is titled Feathers. It's a little bit of a smaller piece, but has an equally great impact. And you can see a wonderful expression, these beautiful gold hoop earrings, and then the birds again used as sort of this feathered collar. Another partner piece. This is Mirrors in Sky. You can see the mirrors here again. So growing up, I think I previously mentioned, Delita was raised Southern Baptist, but her grandmother used to teach her about sort of ancient and contemporary African rituals. And Delita wasn't, she was young, so she wasn't completely aware of what her grandmother was teaching her in terms of importance. One of the stories she likes to tell is that her grandmother had these mason jars she kept on one of the bedside tables. And in the mason jars, there were all these little objects. And when Delita would visit with her grandmother, she would empty the objects out onto the bed and describe a story that went along with each one. And it could be anything from a button from her grandfather's coat to a scrap of a blouse or a dress. And Delita said that later as an artist, she realized the importance of keeping these small objects, that the stories associated with them imbued them with sort of a mystical element, beyond nostalgia and sentimentality. They were, for her grandmother, objects that sort of conjured memories and spirits. And so that's sort of where the title of this exhibition comes from, conjure. Conjuration as a historical practice began with the Romans and can be seen throughout history in many different societies and cultures. It was prevalent in African heritage and ritual. And conjuration, just broadly defined, referred to using an incantation or an object to bring forth a spirit. So during the 17th through 19th centuries, when Africans were traded through the slave trade and came to the Americas, they brought with them these practices such as conjuration, and those rituals were combined with Judeo-Christian beliefs as well as Native American rituals and practices. And these combinations resulted in some of the more contemporary ritual practices we see today, such as hoodoo, voodoo, root work, although root work is historically something that's been practiced for many centuries. You can see in this piece the mason jars. So for Delita, her portrait sitters are real women with real experiences, but because she's drawn them at such a large scale and added these different symbols and objects and decorative papers and outfits, they are, in essence, also conjurations that she's brought forth. This is sort of the one time you see maybe a gender neutral or male form in the works here at the exhibition. And I have one more piece. This piece is titled Offerings. It's another self-portrait. You can see her sitting on sort of a gold stool with almost like a raindrop pattern in the background. She's holding a basket in her hands. And so that's all the pieces here in Conjure. I will take you one gallery over. So the museum has an education gallery called the Con Take Part Gallery. Sometimes we use this to exhibit artists' sketchbooks or to describe the process of an artist's art making. Delita asked if we could actually put an installation in this space for her from, I believe, 2018. It is titled The Dinner Table, and it includes over 300 individual dinner plates. The stipulation is that you have to exhibit at least 150. So we have a little under 200 here at the museum, just because of the need for space and space restrictions. But each dinner plate has an individual drawing of an African-American woman or child. They are all different. And they are drawn onto the face of the plate directly, lithographic crayon. So a lithographic crayon is really waxy, and is often used in printmaking to make lithograph prints, where you draw onto a large stone and then you pull your print off of the stone. So if you started off in drawing and get into printmaking, it's a really good printmaking process to start off with. I'll see if I can back up some. So this installation, the dinner table, typically has a full dinner table included in the installation. Due to COVID, we asked Delita if it would be okay only to exhibit 2 of the chairs 7 feet apart from each other, so that people could sit and speak with one another. And, you know, typically when the full table is on display, she invites visitors to all sit in conversation. But like I said, we stuck to 2 of the chairs. And if we're thinking about art history, this piece references Judy Chicago's piece at the Brooklyn Art Museum titled The Dinner Party. And if you go back in your minds to your first art appreciation classes, Judy Chicago was a well-known female artist during the 1960s and 70s who created this mixed media piece titled The Dinner Party, which includes, I think, about 45 different women. Each has a setting. So there's a plate, a ceramic plate, and each one is individual with a placemat that's been hand embroidered. And when Delita was learning about this piece, she realized that there were only 4 African-American women represented by Judy. And historically, African-American women have been left out of the narrative of history. They're not fully recognized for their achievements or their contributions to society and how impactful those have been. And so the point of this installation was to present viewers with individual African-American women who Delita has known or formed a relationship with over the course of creating the installation, and to give them a face and a portrait that everyone could look at and recognize, as well as having a dinner table where people could sit and discuss, you know, any topic that they wish to talk about, anything from history to culture to society, to just getting to know one another, which I think is a really important element to Delita's work, is getting to know the African-American women she's depicting and showing their portraits to viewers to demonstrate this lack or purposeful erasure of Black and African-American women from our historical narrative, and also from their achievements and work in contemporary society. Okay, so that's the entire exhibit. I'm just gonna go back around. Hi, Brian. Hi, TJ. I'm gonna grab my mask real quick. And I'm excited to hear y'all's questions.
Hey, Caitlin, I have a couple of questions. First, thanks for being here. That was very informative, a great presentation. I look forward to seeing the exhibit. This is more maybe a general question is, and it probably varies, but for how long does each exhibit last in the art museum? How many exhibits do you do a year? And how do you decide which artists you will feature in your exhibits?
Okay, those are great questions. Let me just open the door real quick and then I can answer those questions. So the exhibitions at AMSET and our main galleries typically last anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks. Delita's exhibition opened on March 13th and it will close, sorry, I'm going to my office. It will close May 23rd. So unlike some larger museums like the MFAH or the Stark Museum, our exhibitions quarterly. So we can have anywhere from 4 to 8 exhibitions in our main galleries in a fiscal year. Sometimes we'll have a solo exhibition like we have with Delita. A lot of times we'll actually do 2 exhibitions at the same time and just divide the galleries 2 and 2 between the artists. So let's see. Our next exhibition will be another solo artist who you may be familiar with. This summer, we're gonna have David Cargill take over the entire space that you just saw. So, that's gonna be really fun. So let's see, that was how long they are. Deciding the artists. So we work anywhere from 2 to 3 or 4 years out on our exhibitions. I think a lot of people are actually surprised to know that I can't just put up a show of anyone, you know, in the next like 5 months. And you may know this from speaking with Lynn, but a lot of times our exhibitions are grant funded, which means that we're writing a grant for an exhibition a year to 2 years in advance. And that's mostly because the grants can be so large, but also because the grant funding committees are receiving applications from people all over the US and need some time to go through the applications and choose who they'll be funding. In terms of who we choose, AMSET is a regional museum. A lot of people don't realize that museums actually have exhibiting policies. So if you're familiar with the MFAH, it is what's called an encyclopedic museum, which means they collect artwork from all over the world, from all different time periods. And AMSET is not encyclopedic, we're regional. So we focus on exhibiting artists from Texas, Louisiana, and Mexico. And it's a little bit flexible in that you don't necessarily have to be like living in those 3 regions right now. But if you impacted our art world in some way, or you lived here for a long time and you taught at a Texas university or at a Louisiana university, then in a way you would be eligible as an artist to be shown in our galleries. We're also looking at artists who are represented by art galleries. Representation through a gallery is a really great way to demonstrate that you're at a certain point in your career. I'd say that most artists who have gallery representation are, you know, at least midway into their career. And so gallery representation, normally comes after you've reached a certain point of your career because your art has evolved to a certain quality and you're demonstrating a certain knowledge of your own work. So we're looking at artists who have gallery representation. That's not always the case. It doesn't have to be a requirement that's met, mostly because AMSET also collects and exhibits folk art. And so folk artists typically don't have any kind of art education, let alone have representation by a gallery.
So a question, is the art in the printmaking realm gaining popularity as compared to the traditional oil and watercolor painting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually was having a discussion about that with my fiance, who is a painter. And he also worked for an art handling company for a while and went to the Venice Biennale, which is one of the preeminent worldwide or international art fairs in the world. And he said how surprising it was when he went to the art fair that there really weren't that many paintings. There was a lot of sort of interdisciplinary or mixed media artwork. So as an institution, we're always looking to exhibit a variety of mediums and also a diversity of artists, you know, men, women, non-binary individuals, people of different ages and diverse backgrounds and different races. In terms, more specifically to answer your question, I'd say that contemporary artists are leaning away from traditional art making in that they'll use traditional art making processes to create sort of interdisciplinary or mixed media artworks. So like with Delita, we saw a variety of art making processes combined together to create these individual, unique artworks. I'd say from having been in school pretty recently and also going to school with people who were pursuing degrees in art at the time, that many of them are leaning more towards non-traditional methods such as video art, installation art, and like mixed media sculpture. Do we have any other questions?
Thank you, Caitlin, for showing us that today. It was absolutely beautiful. Big paintings just really make a big statement, and she really has a gift to bring those to life. Some of them felt like they were almost in 3D. That last one you showed us, it was almost like her foot was coming out of the wall. And I really like the way that she puts all the different things together, because she used a little sewing, she uses a little paper. I mean, it just comes out and makes magic. And also something that struck me was that, especially once you got to the plate exhibition and just the reference of being around the table together, art has a way of bringing people together that might not be coming together in other ways. And so I really appreciate Delita's efforts and to try to do some of those activities. And our speaker last week was from the Arts in a Different Way from Broadway, and she made the statement that art saves people. And I really think that there's a lot of truth in that statement. So thank you for spending time with us today and taking us around the Art Museum of Southeast Texas and this fabulous debut. How fortunate for Beaumont to get this show as a debut, and it is just fantastic. So thank you for sharing your time and all your beautiful artwork with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, the museum is open right now with restrictive hours. If you would like to come and visit us, we're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 o'clock. Saturdays from 11 to 4, and we're currently closed on Sundays at this time, but we're always free and open to the public. And yeah, museums are a really safe place to be right now. So I'd say if you want to be even safer, coming in the morning or afternoon is a really great time to visit us. And thank you again so much for having me. I really enjoyed sharing Delita's work with you all.
One more question that I didn't catch out of the chat. Is the hours that you just said, is the gift shop open during that time for people who want to buy her catalog?
Yes, it is open. The gift shop is open during our opening hours. If you'd like to email me about purchasing a catalog, that would be completely fine as well. My email is cclay, CCLAY, @amset, AMSET.org. And you can also find my email on our staff page on our website. But I'd be more than happy to ship one to you. There'd be a little bit of extra cost because of shipping, or even just to package it up and walk it out to your car if you don't want to come into the museum at this time. But we have quite a few catalogs. They're really nice. And yep, just contact me if you're interested in purchasing one.
Thank you. Now that's customer service. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everyone.
And in your name, we will be making a contribution to the Rotary International Foundation, and it will go towards one of the many wonderful programs across the world that Rotary does to make a difference. So thank you, Kate.
Oh, wonderful. That's so great to hear. I really appreciate it.
Our speaker next week we're going to have two, Christina Loki and John Beaver with Beaumont Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they're going to introduce us to one of our hidden gems in Beaumont, the Cattail Marsh Scenic Wetlands and Boardwalk. So keep taking a little tour around Beaumont next week and join us at our Rotary meeting on Wednesday, in person at the Elegante or online, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. And let Jackie know if you're going to show up in person and if you're going to eat, so we can get that, that total to the Elegante to plan. In closing, let's all say the four-way test together, the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build
goodwill and better friendships?
And fourth, will it be
Beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you for attending Rotary today. Go out and find opportunities to lead and serve. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you. Bye.